cakers. Today I'm chatting with Molly Robbins from Molly's Creative Cakes. She is the rising star of the cake world. She's a cake artist, cake contestant, multi-award winning. She is the carved cake specialist and the dog cake whisperer. Hello, Molly.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, great. So you are not the typical caker. So you're not like a mom. You are pretty young for a caker. So would you mind sharing a little bit of yourself, like your personal background, like how you became a caker?
Yeah, of course. I was before I moved into cakes, I was a fine artist. I did an art degree, and then I did a degree in sort of special effects prosthetic makeup. So I did a lot of carving, a lot of moulding, a lot of sculpture, and just kind of went from there really. I've been doing it probably since I was about 20, so I'm 25 now, so about 5 years.
It's a long time. Yeah.
A long time when you're 25, yeah.
Yeah, so what made you become a caker? Like, do you remember that moment when you were like, I'm done with makeup, now I'm gonna do the cakes?
I think I'd watched a lot of the programs, like Cake Boss, American style programs, and I just kind of thought, that looks fun, I'd like to have a go at that, and I just had a go. I just found that I was quite good at making things. I've always been quite crafty and quite making things, so as soon as I started, really, you do get a bug for it, I suppose. I was addicted from the first go, and I just found that it's a really good way of being creative every day, doing something different every day. And I also like working for myself. I think that gives you a lot of freedom.
And it's better if you can eat.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Although if you make a lot of cakes, you don't want to eat them anymore.
Yeah, but you definitely cannot eat like prosthetic legs or something.
No, yeah, latex.
So tell me a bit about like your background, like your parents are like bakers or
No,
because I know that your mom is your biggest help.
Yeah, she is. This year actually my mum officially works for me now, so I'm the boss.
Oh.
She works for me. It's a bit scary, but she's actually
You're the cake boss lady.
Yeah, but she's still the boss. She still tells me exactly what to do. Like, stop doing that. Stop making them up, because I'm quite messy. She does my baking now. She does my inquiries. I still live at home. I still live with mum and dad, and I'm quite proud of that actually, because I
must be awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And she's a massive help, because I was getting a lot of orders and doing an awful lot of cakes. So it's nice to have somebody in the background, just behind the scenes, just making sure everything's working really, really well.
It must be, good to have support.
Yeah, so I used to say I was like a one-woman cake machine. Now there's two. It's two women.
Two women.
Yeah.
You're a cake couple.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so well, you work very quick.
Yeah.
What is your secret? Because time is money.
Uh-huh.
All that, like, cakers usually like fall into the trap of just working very slow and not being able to like finish enough cakes, like say in a week, so that they can make a decent living. So time is money. How do you save time? How did you get to this like speed?
I think partly it's practice. So maybe I'll have done something similar and I'll know just how to do it. So like the dogs, for example, I do an awful lot of dog cakes, so I know roughly the base, the shape, they're roughly similar. So partly it's practice and doing things over and over again, but then also I would say I've adapted techniques for speed. So techniques that look effective and look impressive, but haven't probably taken as long as they look like they've taken. Because when you're running a business, I think you have to do that. There's still a lot of love and care that goes into every single one, and if I'm not 100% happy with it, I'll keep it another 6 hours and keep going. But yeah, I like to make things quick, and I like to, when I'm teaching especially, I like to make things easy so people can come up with something that looks impressive, but actually once you break it down, it's quite easy to follow.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And speak of techniques. What is your favorite? Like, I kind of know that your favorite technique is carving cakes.
Yeah. That's
But
probably what I'm
what
known
else?
for a lot. I mean, I do like to carve cakes. I like to create something 3D that's going to be like a wow factor that somebody could bring to a birthday party or another celebration and just have a centerpiece and it look specifically realistic. So I like doing realistic things. I like doing the food, I like doing the animals. I like things that people have to sort of take a second look at and think, wow, that's impressive. So with carved cakes, it's a nice way of making something that's quite edible. So I keep the support to a minimum. I like to, obviously there's some amazing cakes out there that use a lot of supports and have the huge structures inside, which is incredible. But the way I like to work with my business is I just like to make things that are easy so the customer takes it away and they can just slice it up. They don't have to worry about what can I eat, what can't I eat. We keep things to a minimum support-wise. I do like making the cupcakes as well. I would say...
The pop cakes.
Yeah, the pop cakes. I would say I like to do just the animal face cupcakes. I don't do an awful lot of the intricate, stunning, beautiful, floral, wedding-y kind of cupcakes anymore. I just think there's so many amazing cake people out there that you eventually end up with a bit of a niche for yourself, and I think that's what I've ended up with. I've got the food and the animals.
The dog cake whisperer.
Yeah, the dog cake, yeah.
I just love that term.
Yeah.
So, what is your, because obviously you, like, when you started out, like you must have had something that was an obstacle, like what was, the thing that you were not very comfortable with?
I mean, I think...
When it came to cakes.
Yeah, I think a lot of, you can come at it from a couple of different angles. So some people I know come into, being a cake artist, if that's what you want to call it, from being a baker. In which case, you're learning a lot of the artistic skills. Whereas I came from an art background. So things like airbrushing to me, things like the painting, the sculpting, colouring, knowing about complementary colours and different colours and shades, that was all already built in. So in a way that was easy, but the baking side of it, I had no idea. I am interested in food as much as the next person, and I've always liked to bake a little bit, but I had to learn all that. I had to learn things like the way chocolate behaves, the way different fat content.
Why it behaves like that.
Sort of the science of it really was all completely new to me. So you have to learn by your mistakes in that respect. There was a lot of cakes that ended up in the bin before they even made it to the table.
So you talked about the science of baking.
Yeah.
Because there is a science to baking. Because we get a lot of questions from our viewers, like why my fondant cracks, why my ganache splits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to know that like baking or even cake decorating is a science.
Absolutely.
So there are like substances that behave certain ways under certain circumstances, right?
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And also you find that different products behave completely differently. So sometimes if you have to buy a different type of flour than what you usually buy, or I do it with a different type of butter sometimes. If they've run out, I have to use a different type of butter, and it's still butter and it's still regular unsalted butter, but it will change the texture of your cake completely. The crumb will be different, the colour is often different, and the smell and the taste, and it's one of the things you kind of have to understand. If you understand why everything works a certain way, I mean, there's still a lot that I don't understand in terms of the actual science behind the baking, but if you kind of get your head around that, it means you can overcome the obstacles a bit easier, I think.
Okay, what the science of baking? What if you think, this is going to be like a tricky question. So if you think back, think about your worst moment ever concerning caking, like the absolute worst moment when you were about to give up, and tell us what that was, like just when you were like, this shit, like.
That is a hard one. I mean, in terms of my customers and people I've made cakes for, they've always been really nice and supportive, so touch wood, I've been lucky in that respect. I've never had, like, some people I know get kind of nasty complaints and comments and things like that, but you know, now I've been doing it enough time, I think I've been lucky in that respect. There's been times when, you know, you'll make a cake and you'll finish it and it'll be ready to go out the door, say a dog like that, and its head will fall off. That happens. That happens, and the first time it happens, you're like, this is it, this is the end of my life. Now, you just have to be practical about it, and you kind of have to go, right, why's that happened? What are we going to do to fix it? How long have I got? Usually maybe ring the customer, see if we can squeeze an extra hour. But up to now, you know, if you're professional and you kind of just look at it as to why it's happened and how you're going to fix it, you can kind of, you get around it really. I think I've jinxed myself now, something awful's going to happen because I've been really blasé about it, but it does happen. Things like humidity, the weather. Where I live in Lancashire, in the UK, we have, it's a little valley that I live in, and we actually have the highest rainfall in the country.
Oh.
So it just rains, and I mean maybe 75%.
That's called England, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mostly England, but specifically where we are, it is the rain capital. If you like rain, come to where I am. And because of that, you do get days that are humid, you do get days that are very wet. So I have things like dehumidifiers constantly running, but even then still.
Do you have like little tweaks that you can use concerning the cakes?
Yeah. So
like
they'll be stored in different places. For
Yeah.
example, the rooms in my studio that are drier, sometimes they'll get stored in there. Things like adding a bit more Tylo sometimes, letting something dry before you add another layer of it. Not adding huge amounts of food colouring if you can avoid it, because it can bleed and run, and it often softens you. You
could actually just like share, you know, these like tips and tricks with our members. Yeah. That's actually a good idea.
There's a few things. I mean, there's nothing concrete that I live by, but when you do something so much for a fairly long time, you kind of pick stuff up as you go along. So I suppose
you then in that case you're the humidity expert, so they can like, you know, ask you later about you know, like how to overcome these.
I mean, sometimes you can't overcome it, and sometimes you just got to stick that head back on. But
like, you know, pray for.
Yeah, just pray.
Yeah.
Things like royal icing helps.
Yeah.
Strengthen. So sometimes I do that a lot.
Okay, well, what was your best ever cooking moment? I know that, like, for example, I know that you have an enormous following on Facebook. You're very popular. You've got, like,
at the
50.
moment, I think that's today, it's about 54.
54? Yeah. Because, like, you were here when you
I hit 50,
like 50,000 followers on Facebook, which is enormous.
Yeah.
In such a short amount of time.
It's crazy. If I think about it too much, it kind of freaks me out, because I'm like, I don't even know 5,000 people. And there's 50,000 that know not necessarily who I am, but my work and my passion. It is amazing, but at the same time, it's like you have to convince yourself sometimes that, you know, you are good enough, and you do doubt yourself. I think everybody does. I think everybody kind of thinks, oh, there's so many people better than me out there, which there are, but you've got to, I think now I've found maybe a tiny little corner of the cake market that maybe hasn't been gone down a lot, and I just enjoy it. Like the food cake, I love making them. I absolutely love making them. I love making things that look real, and like it's kind of gross at the same time.
You expect something like a savory flavor?
Yeah.
And then
like meat, like
and then the same, like it's a nice like bitter smell, and then it smells like sugar.
Yeah.
It's weird. It really tricks your brain.
Tricks your brain, and I think that's fun, and I think I love the thought. My first thought if I'm designing a cake for somebody is people's reactions. If you go, I do a lot for children, so I love getting photos of the child when the cake comes and they're like, wow, that makes it worthwhile for me. So I like thinking about not so much like the shock factor, but like the wow factor. So people are gonna go, what? Wow, that's cool. And
you like to make people happy, I can say.
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, because you know, you're just like, you have such a like lovely, bubbly personality. So I can tell that, like, you.
Yeah, I do, and I think that's why, you know, I won't let a cake leave me until I'm 100% happy with it, because I want the customer to be like excited about it. And sometimes I get excited just making it. I feel a bit sad, but yeah, I like, sometimes you get really attached to them.
You don't want to let them go.
You're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, the dogs especially. You like dogs.
Yeah, I heard that you're.
I'm
you're
a dog
great
fan. I was sad that your dog wasn't around. I wanted to meet her.
Well, she'll be around
Next time.
next time. So, what's your best advice to our cake decorators, like students?
Advice? I'd say it's hard because, you know, I don't know everything. I don't think anybody does.
What was the thing that that came as a shock for you? Like, you know, you were like doing cakes and then you just discovered something that was like, wow, like a wow factor.
Yeah.
So what was that?
Different techniques, I suppose.
Because that might be a good advice.
Yeah, with the food.
Or
cakes.
just some motivational advice.
Yeah, but I mean, when I work with cakes like food, I look at it in a different way. So I will, instead of looking at a finished product, I think you can look at things and copy them. But then if you want to really make something realistic, you think about how it's made. Mm-hmm. So if I make food cake, I'll start right from the beginning and I'll think, what does this look like before it's cooked? So the colour of something before it's cooked, dough or
like the pizza dough.
bread. Yeah. I'll think about that. And then I will go in and use techniques that would work the way that you would cook something. And in the same respect, that's how I kind of work with the animal cakes. So if you understand, it's a bit like sculpting, but like before it's cooked. Yeah. No, if you understand how.
Sorry, that was utterly wrong.
How a dog is made, so how the muscles work, how the legs work, different ways. And I know they're quite cartoony, they're not that realistic, but I think it definitely helps the way you think about something. Proportions, exactly. So that's, I would say, I don't really consciously do it, but I think that's probably how I work stuff out. Because I do work, you throw yourself at the deep end, you've got to just work something out sometimes. Someone will ring you and say, can I have a giraffe in 2 weeks? And you'll be like, yeah, okay. And then you're like, no, how do I do this? You have like 10 minutes of panic and then online, like, and then you just do it.
So then, thank you for all this wisdom.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I've had a lovely time. Really good time. And you might be seeing me again.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back.
We hope.
Yeah.
So, bye, cakers.
Bye.